Jason joined the Army as an infantryman and infantryman in 2009. I should have my glasses. Look at this. Watch this, world. This is how you know you're getting old, when you have to do this right here. There you go. And he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2012. 4 months into his deployment, he stepped on a 15-pound IED that resulted in the loss of both his legs and severe damage to his right hand. After learning to walk again and gaining the use of his right hand in rehab, he retired in 2014, moved to Chattanooga. He is married with 2 children, now works for a nonprofit, Catch a Lift Fund, helping veterans get into shape through activity, nutrition, and emotional wellness. We're going to talk a little bit about his journey, the ups and downs, all of that coming up right now. And I think I did that right. And if not, I'm sure he will set me straight. He's coming up on screen right now. How you doing, Jason?
Doing pretty good, man.
Did I get all that right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it sounded great.
I got to be honest. Sometimes I really wouldn't care if I made a mistake with an intro. This is one I wanted to get right, at least for the most part. I didn't want you to come on and go, no, dude, I was in the Navy. What are you talking about? Why are you putting wrong stuff up? So you're from Ringgold originally, right?
I am, yeah.
When did you graduate high school from there?
I graduated in 2004.
Did you go straight into the Army?
No, actually. So I lived in Ringgold from 94 to 2004, and I was actually born in California. So as soon as I graduated high school, I went back to California, which was a horrible mistake. But then I came back 2 years later.
Well, you're going to start learning about. Have you been on a podcast or video like this before?
I've done a couple events like this, but never been on a podcast.
Well, here you go. You'll learn that when you say stuff, I get to just. I'm not on a timeline. I just get to stop and ask questions like, okay, so what made moving back to California such a horrible decision?
No adult supervision. So
I was going to go. You're young and in California.
Yeah,
I was thinking that.
I was 19, I think, when I got there, and I came back once I realized it wasn't for me.
Well, 19-year-olds are so famous for making really good, sound decisions.
Oh, yeah, we know everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you went into the Army, and I asked you. I'll just be transparent with folks that either watch this today or may watch it down the road. I asked you before you came on what was, if there was anything that you didn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And you were super transparent and said you would just be happy to talk about it all. So is there any way you could just kind of, you don't have to go in, start like getting into the Army, but first of all, why did you want to go into the Army? And the second, kind of walk us through what brought you up before the accident. How'd you get to that point?
Okay, yeah. So the reason for joining the military was my dad was in the military. I was an Army brat. I moved all over the place. I started in California in the 80s. Then my dad got relocated to Montana, so we stayed there. And then we moved down to Georgia because he was stationed in Chattanooga. And seeing that, it always made me want to do it because I admired the man, And I joined in 2009. I was 23 years old, a little bit before my 24th birthday. And it's funny, you don't really know how immature you are until you have to be in an environment where you can't do anything, And that really set me straight. So I did basic training in 2009. I got to my first unit, which was South Korea, back at the end of 2009. And that was interesting. It felt like it was more so an old Army. I don't know if that really makes sense, but it was more like marching, doing a lot of cadence, a lot of book stuff, doctrine stuff, like by the books. It was cool. And then I went to Fort Lewis and everything was so laid back. I didn't really know what to do. Like we weren't really marching anymore. We were just like, I'll just be there. Like, okay, what are we supposed to get in step or something? But it was just funny how it's just so different on a different part of the world, because back over there, it's the old Army,
right?
So I spent time in Fort Lewis from 2010 to 2012, and I learned a lot there. I learned more there than I did in Korea, and I got my E4 there, got my E5, which made me a sergeant and a team leader right before we deployed, and we deployed in March of 2012. To the southern part of Afghanistan, and it was real flat down there. So you're more susceptible to IEDs, improvised explosive devices, ambushes, stuff like that. Now, if it's mountains, it's even more aggressive because now you could be in a ravine and they could be up high and they could shoot down on you. It's just like a different issue wherever you go. But yeah, so we were on a lot of flat land, and we did a lot of clearing. a lot of route guidance, stuff like that.
Well, do me a favor, because there's people that watch this that may be interested in the story, but I don't know what that means. Clearing and route is you're looking for those IEDs, or you're
Yeah.
clearing? Yeah.
So what we do is we get a mission. They tell us, hey, go here, turn this space into a different. So we have colors,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not really versed. It's been so long since I've done it, but I think white space was neutral. And so we wanted to turn all the bad spaces into like white space, I think. And we would go in there, knock on the doors, clear the buildings, make sure there's nobody in there, no dangerous threats, and basically give the village back to the civilians that live there, and try and keep all the insurgents out. And then we would do a lot of Overwatch stuff, which means we would watch people do things. And a lot of times when they would do a lot of like building roads, we'd have to be out there watching them just in case they took fire, so we could return fire and help them. But that was really the bulk of it, just really clearing and watching.
Before you had this incident, had you had some experiences already in that, or how long were you in country before that? Before your accident, had it been a while, or had it been?
So I was there for 4 months exactly. We got there March 25th, and I got hurt July 25th, and we were doing an 8-month rotation. So what that means is, as soon as 8 months is up, we go back home.
Yeah.
So I got injured halfway through, and up until the point of injury, being so young, I was always fit. I just felt invincible. I was the man's man. I was in front of everybody. I would always walk in front of people with a balun, which was a metal detector, and I would look for IEDs in the ground and clear the route for my guys behind me. So I almost felt like that sense of like, nah, I'm better than them. They can't get me. They're just farmers. That wasn't true at all, actually.
Well, there's a lot of responsibility you just took on too as a young kid.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm assuming there was a sense of the guys behind me and the girls behind me, the people behind me, kind of were your responsibility, you felt.
I felt that way, yeah. I was actually 27 when I went over there, but I had a guy that was my saw gunner that was 19. And I always looked at that like, man, he is so young. Like, I couldn't imagine being that young and getting hurt. I'm 27, so I was willing to accept what would happen to me, but I had people younger than me that I was in charge of, and that always was in the back of my mind.
It's just so weird, the world we live in. I'm old now, man. I'm almost 53. Yeah. And when I think about somebody 27 talking about the young guys around them, I go, what the hell are you talking about? You're young.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
But that's the way. I understand the military. My dad was in the Army during Vietnam, so he was over there. I think if I'm not mistaken, due to other circumstances, he was there right before he turned 18 because he was over there for some other reasons. But so yeah, young people leading young people, and then I say young, but if it matures you fast. You become adult really quick with that responsibility.
Yeah, it's a lot on your shoulders. One mess up could change the course of someone's life, and that was I always took that to heart. I tried to do my job the best I could. Yeah.
Talk me through, and I said accident early. It wasn't an accident. It was an incident. It was where you got injured. People that placed that there knew exactly what they were doing. So it was not accidental. They did that. So tell me exactly, if you don't mind, kind of walk us through what you were doing that day.
I can paint the whole day for you. So it was about 7 a.m. And I was teaching a class to the ANCOP, which is the Afghan National Army. And these are the guys that were supposed to be taking back their country. We were trying to lead them, show them how to do it so they could take back and fight the insurgents. I was teaching them how to find IEDs in the ground. Funny enough, I was planting pieces of metal in loose dirt, and I was showing them how to do it, show them what to do if they find it, how to expose a little bit of the wire and stuff like that. We heard this giant boom. And we got spun up, which means we got called to go out there and investigate. And we went out there, and there was a road, and then there was a ditch on the side of the road that dropped down maybe 4 feet and then came back up. And then there was a wall. So what it looked to me is that the man who was putting the IEDs in that area had injured himself, and there was evidence of that. And I'm trying to say it nicely.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So we looked at the likely avenue that he went, and we went over there and tried to find anything. We couldn't find anything. So what we did was we came back over the wall, went through the ditch, came back onto the road. And at that point, our job is to assess and grab as much intel as possible. So what we were doing was a BDA, battle damage assessment, where I was looking for as much stuff as I could find of the man that did it, his belongings, stuff like that. And I bent down to pick up a hat that was. I'm missing pieces to this story. So there was a hat in the ditch.
Yeah.
And when I came back over from that wall through the ditch and back onto the road, the hat was on the road. So I'm like, all right, my guys did my job for me. Awesome. They picked it up out of the ditch, threw it on the road. Great. I bent down to pick up that hat. And when I did, I stepped on the IED with my left foot. And so I was leaning down maybe 3 inches from the ground when it happened. I remember doing a backflip, hitting my chest. I was awake. And I'm just kind of sitting there, and there's dust everywhere. And the first thing I do is I can't really see, but I was trying to do a swipe and check, make sure I was good. My hands were in front of me, and I was moving my fingers. Like, okay, I've got my hands. That's good. I started kicking my legs. Like, okay, I can feel my toes, which I couldn't, but I thought I could. And I remember my guys bounding up to me, and that's when I realized it was me who got hit, and nobody else. They did the tourniquets. They did their jobs. They flipped me over, carried me to the chopper area. And they were able to keep me stable and keep things
And
going.
you were awake this whole time? You were conscious the whole time?
Yeah, it was wild.
What? Yeah, okay. So when did the point of this is not okay? I know you said that you realized when they came over, there had to be a point where the numbness and the shock started to wear off and reality set in.
So the first thing I noticed was, I'm going to show you my hands. So this hand's got a big chunk taken out of it, which I don't know how this guy survived, because this guy was 2-3 inches from the ground. And this is the only thing that it sustained. It was just a little chunk on the outside right here. And then my pinky's kind of messed up. And then this hand was holding the rifle. And what happened was the blast came up, took out all the knuckles, the bone, the tendon, the skin, all that from this hand. And that's the first thing I noticed when I was on my stomach. Before they really got up to me, I started to feel my fingers kind of curl in. And I'm like, what is that? And I start to look. I'm like, oh, man. And so that was the first thing I noticed.
They got you out of there, and we'll kind of move to the part where I'm assuming they got you stable. They got you to the hospital as soon as possible. Yeah. When did how long before you got to where you were going to start your rehab? What was you can give us the brief story between the time they got you to the time you got to rehab. What was that? What did that start? What does that story look like?
So July 25th is when I got hit. The first thing I remember was I woke up in Germany, because they had to make sure I was stable in Kandahar before they could fly me to Germany. And then they did a couple things to me in Germany, and then they took me to the States. But the first thing I remember is waking up in Germany, and I was in this giant incubator because my lungs were at like 15% capacity. And I was yelling, screaming. I'm like, what is going on? Where am I? I had no idea what was happening. And that is one of the only memories I have from Germany. There's two other ones. One was my nurse was super nice, and she watched Big Bang Theory with me, and that was great. And then I saw my buddy who got hurt an hour after me roll past my room in his thing. He also lost his legs as well. So those are the only memories I have of Germany. And then they flew me to America. First touchdown in Washington, D.C., because there's a place up there, Bethesda, Maryland. It's where a lot of the guys go for rehab. And oddly enough, I'm asleep when we get there, and I feel this tap on my shoulder. And it was my cousin who lived in that area. And I haven't seen this man in like 20 years. And he's like, what's up, man? How are you? And so seeing family at that lowest point, it was like, oh my gosh. And I actually have a picture that he took of me. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And it's I don't want to say it's a small world. That's a small, those 2 points touching, in a time and place. That's a bigger power looking out for you, giving you a little something right there, at least. Yeah, so from there, you go to Texas to rehab?
I went to San Antonio, Texas.
And this is where, from what and you can, of course, it's your story, so feel free to correct me, but this is where it sounds like this is all hard so far. There's nothing easy about this. I don't know. I feel like a jerk going, now this is where it really got hard. It sounds like it's all been hard, but I think this is where mentally you got challenged, right?
It was, because it was the first time that I'd really been coherent enough to understand what was going on, how my life had been changed and everything like that. Because up until that point, I was induced while flying from Germany to Texas, so I didn't remember much of the flight. I was never really left alone with my own thoughts.
Right.
And when I got there, I think I got there July 29th. So all this went from RC South, Kandahar, Germany, Washington, and then San Antonio in 4 days. And I remember a lot of my family members came in. My father, my mother, my stepmother, my cousins. They all flew in from California to see me, and that was very helpful. My brother was there as well, and that kind of helped me like stay grounded because I had people I was surrounded by loved ones. And I think the first real like oh crap was they asked me like, hey, do you kind of want to see your legs now? Like they weren't bare, they were bound and stuff like that. But I was kind of fixed in a reclined position because I don't really know why. I think I was just too swollen, and they actually removed the covers and let me see what was going on. And I remember seeing that like everything in my mind just went gone, and I remember crying, just like not really willing to accept it, but I learned a little bit, maybe 2-3 months after that, that like you can't grow as a person until you let go of who you were, and that really got me over the hump. Because before that, I was mean, I was aggressive. I was just like, this isn't the life for me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. At no point did I ever think about suicide, but I just didn't. There were so many questions left unanswered. Like, where am I going to live? How am I going to get around? How am I going to make money? There's things I had no idea, and nobody told me anything. So that
And
was,
you're 27.
yeah, and I'm 27.
I mean, yeah.
Life-changing experience at 27.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you now, the guy I was before my injury was a turd compared to the guy that I am now. Because I know who I am. I know what matters. I know what doesn't matter. And barring the pain I felt, I would do it over again to secure who I am today.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about that mental process, and then we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about what you're doing now, because you said it. I wrote it down, man. You can't be who you want to be. You've got to let go of who you were, and
Yeah.
I like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, and then we'll move on to what you're doing now, which is helping other veterans. But that mental process, because I think a lot of times, and I won't put words in other people's mouth, I'll say it. I'll watch these stories of people like yourself who've gone through these things. And it does 2 or 3 things, right? First of all, my hips that hurt, or my shoulders that hurt, or it all of a sudden makes me feel like a big sissy, right? Because I'm like, I probably need to stop complaining. That's the first thing it does. Second thing it does is I think it makes all of us question, would I be able to handle that like he or she did? We all start questioning. I hear what you're saying. And for you to navigate this and come out and do what you do now, I think everybody wonders, am I made of that kind of metal? Because it's not something that a lot of us are. We're not faced with these things on a daily basis, and you were. So when you start going down this road of self-discovery, you already mentioned the pain and kind of the pissed offness at the world, and maybe you and God were probably having a lot of hard conversations, I would think.
Absolutely, yeah.
You and God got. I tell my son this all the time. Don't be mad. Don't be scared to talk to God like you would everybody else. God's okay. He's pretty tough.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you were having some private moments with him.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, going through those things, everybody goes through something in life, and you really honestly boils down to 2 choices. Are you going to get up, or are you going to lay down? And for me, without trying to sound like a postcard or something, it's just like I had this thing in my mind where even on my worst day, I'm better than somebody on their best day. So like I may be going through something, but somebody on the bed next to me might not have any arms and no legs, and I'm over here feeling sorry for myself when this man is over here living his best life. So I had to get that mentality where it is what it is, but it also is what you make it. So you have to push through that kind of stuff.
That didn't come immediately, though, did it? You had to.
That came in February of 2013. So we're talking like.
So you've got a timeline on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember the day. It was 7 months after my injuries. I remember I got my legs in November, and I remember trying to take a couple steps, and I just wasn't feeling it. I hated it. It was uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good to walk on. I have a thigh, and I have a little bit below my knee on my right leg, and it doesn't feel good to walk on your shin or your thigh. Mm. And I was just like, this isn't for me. I'm done. And I remember one day I was like, I have a dental appointment. I'm going to walk there. And it was a quarter mile maybe, but man, it was it was rough. It was longer than that in my head. But at that moment, I was like, I'm not going to take these off again, because at that point in time, I had gained a lot of weight. And before my injury, I was always in the gym. So I had this idea of who I should be, and I didn't like who I was. So I focused on getting back to that. And once I got that in my head, like, I'm not taking these legs off again, I found out that I could do certain things that people said I couldn't do.
Like what? What could you do that you couldn't
So
do?
my hand, like I said, my hand is completely destroyed. This skin is actually from my stomach. I have a big scar going down from my hip to my stomach, and the bone inside this hand is from my hip. So they had to replace basically the right side of my hand with pieces of my body. And I was told that I wouldn't be able to weight bear with that, probably ever. And it took about a year off for me to start really weight bearing on it. And now, I mean, honestly, without, pumping myself up, I hit 405 on flat bench, and it didn't hurt at all. So that right there.
I got to be honest. I could have gone the whole thing without you saying that, because I have none of that, and I never hit 405. Yeah. So kind of pisses me off a little bit, but that's you keep talking.
Hands,
But what'd you say?
I got a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping, that makes me. That's good for you though. So now you can do stuff like that, and this is a good place, I think, for us to move a little bit, and then we might dive back into what you went through, but you have all of this. These points of reference now, right? I mean, you've served, you've been injured to a huge extent. You've had to battle the rehab. You're doing things now that people say you can't do. When did you either figure out what you want to do next, which is the giving back part? And was there an in-between thing you did? Was there other stuff you did to get to this point?
Yeah. I just reached a point in my life where personal growth was great, but helping other people grow is better. And that made me feel much better than just working on myself. So I did a couple things before I actually worked with a nonprofit. And I worked with one that helped build homes for veterans.
Okay.
I did that for maybe a year. And then I did, I don't know, are you familiar with Miracle League in YMCA?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So I'm a coach with Miracle League. I've been doing that since its inaugural season. And, because of COVID, we couldn't do it this year, but hopefully we're picking up in the spring. I do that, and it just led me to a path where I was blessed with an opportunity to help other people kind of get to where I was, if not better than where I'm at. And I really hung on to that, and I really enjoy that more than really, bringing myself up.
Well, and you work with an organization now called Catch a Lift Fund, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, I will say, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people go through trauma in different ways. Some of it's physical abuse. Some trauma is emotional, as a kid. Some of it is personal when you lose a lot of people. Some of it's like what you've experienced. What I have found is whatever pain you've usually gone through, if you do what you did, which a lot of people don't have the patience to do, and that's go through the fight and listen to God, he will eventually take that and then show you other people where you can meet them in their pain and show them the way out.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what, reading your story, he's done for you, because you can meet people, and they may be just, you probably meet people at different phases of this journey where you can relate to them. You can relate to them 100%.
Yeah. And I told you there was that dark period about 7 months after my injuries. And what Catch a Lift allows me to do is help those people transition from, the point of like, okay, I'm hurt, to completely skipping that dark spot, because nobody was there to help me. No one was there to really tell me that I could do things that they said I couldn't do. No one was there to help me in the gym or anything like that. So basically what happens is I'm able to help these guys skip 5 or 6 months and immediately just get them into like, man, you can do this. You can do this. The only thing holding you back is you. And a lot of people, we strive with positive reinforcement. I don't care who you are. It feels good to say, hey, man, you look great today. It's the truth. You don't need to hear it, but it feels good when you do.
Right. I'm writing down some stuff as you're talking. I used to tell my kids all the time what one man or woman can do, another man or woman can do. And I think it's good when people see stuff and see your story, they realize, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And I'll say this, man, even if you've got a bunch of people around you, it seems like what you went through, when they're all gone out of the room, it's still just you battling yourself.
Yeah. There's never a morning I don't wake up and I'm like, all right, But it's a mental place you want to be at. You choose. So I choose every day. Like I have two small children. I'm not going to not walk because it hurts. I'm going to walk because I want my children to see that dad can do it.
Right.
And hopefully that instills something in them that they're like, hey, my dad went through this when he was younger. When I was younger, I can do it. Like I can get through this test. I can get through this, whatever it is. Yeah, it's just a mental space, I guess.
So when you're doing this now with the Catch a Lift Fund, tell everybody what that organization is and what they do.
So Catch a Lift Fund disperses gym grants and gym memberships to wounded veterans post 9/11. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to it. We actually have a lot of people from around America in our organization. And what we do is we will take some of these veterans that are enrolled and we'll fly them to certain places and do a warrior weekend. And what that entails is a lot of group working out, a lot of positive support, and a lot of new outlets for them to understand things they didn't know. So I know we did one in Connecticut last year. We did yoga, we did spinning, we did kickboxing. It's all these cool things and they're all group events too. So you're learning and growing together. And one of the biggest things that any veteran will tell you is that they miss the camaraderie. They miss their brothers and their sisters. Anytime I think about the military, I don't automatically go to my injuries. If I see an old veteran or an old buddy of mine, I'm like, man, you remember that time we did this? Or do you remember that time? Because that's what brings you back. It's not the boring, monotonous stuff that they make you do. It's
the marching.
Yeah. Or the sweeping a motor pool. That's my favorite. Yeah.
The what?
Sweeping a giant piece of concrete for no reason. Hey, the outside's got to be pretty. What's the outside?
Go sweep the concrete.
Yeah,
my dad tells a story when he was I think he was in boot camp, and it was before he went to Vietnam, and he was giving directions to somebody that was new, and he turned a point and he hit the drill sergeant that he didn't know was there and knocked his hat. And I said, what did he do? He said, I cleaned the Dempsey dumpster out with a Dixie cup of water and a toothbrush.
Oh God.
He said I was doing that.
Yeah.
So those chores, I imagine, they serve no real purpose other than to realize, look before you point, I guess. So you're doing this, you're providing the gym equipment, and more importantly, you're meeting people at their emotional state. And what do you specifically do? Because I'm about to drop a title on you that your friends will make fun of you here in a minute for. But what do you do specifically? Because I'm going to call you a name.
Right.
Yeah.
So I help personal train with the veterans. I'll do a lot of entrance interviews and stuff like that. I'll talk to the veterans, see what they kind of need. And I also help fundraise and do local things here.
So you fly, but not just local. You fly around, right?
Yeah, I fly. Yeah.
And why do they get you to come to these events? Because you're the what? I called you. You're the talent, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, essentially, yes and no. Yeah.
This is a great way. I've never met him before. Now he's already like, this guy's pissing me off. He's already putting a name on me.
Never.
Talent,
I
man.
hear this and make them think that I think I'm something I'm not. I'm like, oh man.
No, I get it. Well, but you're okay. So, and let's be honest, you have a story. Your story attracts people's attention because of what it takes to go through your story. And that is a good way for them to learn about an organization that does good things for veterans. And that helps them let go of the dollar bills, the checkbooks, and the time. And that's really what these organizations need.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of another organization here locally called Reference Point?
No.
Need to hook you up with them. They help with veterans as far as networking, jobs, and they have range day 2 or 3 times a year.
Oh, nice.
Oh, Daniel Wysong, if you're watching this, Andy Craig, and they bring guns, flamethrowers. They blow stuff up.
So I know his name, Daniel Wysong.
Well, they have 13 brothers and sisters, and all of them are in the military.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I played rugby with his brother for a while, John. And so, the Wysongs, I think they may have had more brothers and sisters than that. They just have a lot of siblings.
Big family, yeah.
Yeah, they have their own football team, basically.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I need to hook you up with them because y'all, you know how this works. If there's things they can't serve for a veteran over here, maybe you guys can.
Absolutely.
And there's always strength like that with those organizations.
I agree.
So let's go through some stuff here. So when you say you do personal trainer, do you have a gym, or how do you do this? How do you do that?
So it's all online. It's basically setting the macros for the guys, or setting their caloric intake, just kind of helping them fill in the gaps of the things they don't really know, and then strengthen their strengths that they've already got. So just kind of, because one thing could throw your whole system off, and if you fix that, you'll be a better running machine.
Yeah, I've got so many people I'm going to connect you with. A girl named Chastity Snowden out of Florida. There's some people I'm going to connect you with. She participated in the World CrossFit World Games as a masters competitor. She does coaching with macros, but there's some CrossFit gyms, because you work not just specifically, but I think you said you work a lot with CrossFit gyms. That's where you host your events.
Yeah, that's a huge part of our organization is we do the Coughlin WOD, and actually. The Coughlin WOD it's a sanctioned event from CrossFit that was modeled after our founder's brother, who actually passed away overseas, and it's just called the Coughlin. It's a 8-minute hang, I think an 800-meter run if you drop, and then like 20 push-ups. It's interesting. It doesn't sound that bad, but I'm telling you right now, you can only hang on that bar for about a minute and a half. And if you fall, if you hang on for a minute and a half, you're not hanging on for a minute and a half the second go round. You're hanging on for about 40 seconds. And it's 30 seconds, and it's just over and over and over. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't like the way that sounds at all.
Yeah, it's
not a bit.
I did it once all the way through, and I was like, this is hard.
So you go to these gyms, you ask the gyms, hey, would you like to host an event? I'll come in, kind of tell everybody about the organization, and then you do a workout with them?
We do, yeah. And what we do is we put it on our website. We let people know where the gym is going, what's going on. And that helps bring in a lot of other people to their gym that they might not necessarily have there. And it also raises awareness for us, too. So it's kind of like a double-sided sword. And we actually did one at the YMCA downtown, November 21st. I see Debbie Stabelka.
I'm about to put up. Hey, Jason. Hey, Clint. I know Debbie. Yeah. Hey, Debbie.
Yeah, she's a gem.
She is. And now I know you say local, but you guys, is this a nationwide or a national?
It is. Nonprofit? Yeah. It's a nationwide nonprofit, and we go a lot of places to kind of tell people about it. So one of the coolest places we went was Camp Pendleton down in San Diego. We went out there and worked out with a lot of the guys that are active. So we had these guys, me and I think 3 other people that were missing limbs, go in and coach these guys on these little events. And it was pretty cool to actually get back in there and mess around with active duty again. That was cool.
So are you retired now officially? Or are you still part of?
I'm retired. Yeah.
Retired. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know I was going by your Facebook page. I thought you were still involved somehow. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring up the events is because COVID has changed a little bit of this, not just for nonprofits. So you've not had as many events this year. Can you give online? Is there other ways people can give?
Yeah. We're always doing things on our website, catchaliftfund.org. You can go there. We also have an Instagram page that's updated all the time and lets you guys know what's going on with our events. We just did 14 days of giving, and it was pretty cool. You got to meet a lot of the veterans in the program. We did a lot of their side stories. I did one on there. It was really neat.
And I'm trying to find that. I'm gonna stall a little bit because I'm gonna try to get that link up while we're on. I want to at least put your Facebook page up here.
Okay.
And that way people can go find out. I'm assuming there's links all through there anyway. So if you're watching this down the road, just go check out the comments right now. And I'm going to post a link to their Facebook page. There it is. And you can go check that out. At least they'll have the website there, and you can go give there if you want to. Now, do you go speak at places too? Do you share your story with other groups and associations?
I do. Yeah, I do. I have done a couple things. I've done it with Catch a Lift. I've done it with a couple other organizations as well. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's fun.
You like doing it?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
See, why don't you start a podcast? You got to start a podcast I don't tell this to everybody, but I think now that I know enough people that kind of are veterans that have had the guts to do what you do and other friends of mine, I think a local podcast about different organizations like what you do and what Daniel does, and you guys getting on a podcast where you can relate to people, I think that would be a great resource for all the organizations. But I also think your story and their stories And I think, first of all, y'all have a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, most of it would probably be off, not recorded, the fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it would be fun, and I think you would find it beneficial. So I'm just going to throw it out there now live, and then maybe we'll talk to some other folks. But I think a consistent podcast to say hi to help these folks would be good.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right. So let me make sure I got everything covered here. Oh, one other cool thing about your organization, I want to pull it out, is if you give money, they can track where the money goes, correct?
Yeah. So if you do like a giant donation, or you do any type of donation, so there is a set amount that we have that usually costs to help one veteran. And if your company or your group donated money, we can show you exactly where that money went. We can show you what veteran it helped, what it helped them get. And, I've donated money before, and had somebody sent me something like that, I've been like, well, that's awesome. It's nothing I would have ever thought of, but it's so cool to really see where it goes.
Yeah, because you know where your money's being spent.
Yeah.
What's up, Josh? Josh just chimed in. Do it. Talking about the podcast. What's going on, man? And so I want to, you have a lot of nicknames, but from now on, when I talk to you right before we do it, I'm just gonna start calling you Talent. That's your new nickname for me. You've got a nickname for me. Is there anything else? Because I think we've covered some stuff. If you're okay with it, I think I am going to connect you with some folks.
Yeah.
That can help your networking a little bit. Is there anything else you want to tell people about the organization or your story that I might have overlooked? Anything you want to say before we start wrapping this up?
No, it's a great organization, and I'm a little biased. I think it's the best because. Do you
have a gym you work out of?
I have one at my house. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I work down in Dunlap. Work out down in Dunlap sometime at Max Fit, and then Signal Mountain Athletic Club.
With that 405 bench press.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Josh? A 405 bench press. You better get to it, man. Real quick, last. Are you a football fan?
I'm a Raiders fan.
Raiders fan. Okay, I grew up with the original Oakland Raiders. I grew up with Oakland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Oakland Raiders because we didn't have the Titans when I grew up here. They were in were in Houston. So, are you a college football fan?
My wife's family is, and I say I'm an Alabama fan because I'm not trying to argue with anybody.
Well, I'm a Roll Tide. See, that's good.
Right,
Josh is a huge Tennessee fan. I was just trying to give some digs to Josh. I was hoping you were Georgia or Alabama. So there we go. Alabama. All right, Roll Tide, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you.
Jason, I appreciate it. Have a good day, buddy.
All right,
bye, everybody.